Hello, everybody. We are live from Supergiant Games at our headquarters in San Francisco, California, and we are here to talk about our third game, Pyre. For those of you who don't know us, we are the creators of Bastion and Transistor, and today we're going to do a live gameplay exhibition of our new game. We're going to answer your questions you might have about it, and we're going to talk about some new stuff that we've never shown before in it. But before we get there, we got some news for you.
Yeah, the news is that Pyre is almost done. It's something that we're very, very excited about since we have been working on this game for about 3 years, longer than any amount of time that we've spent on our previous two games. The game is coming on July 25th, less than 2 months, to Steam and PlayStation 4. On Steam, it'll be for Windows and Linux at launch. The game is $19.99, and you can act now and pre-order if you so choose, if you're so inclined, and get 10% off. Though make sure it's the game for you. That's kind of what we're here to show you more about, talk more about. Wanted to kind of reintroduce the game, both for those of you familiar with it and less familiar, because even some of our most dedicated fans, sometimes when they see our games, they're like, what? This is intriguing, but what is going on here, really? Because we like to make our games rather mysterious. So Pyre is a big departure for us. We consider it a party-based RPG. It's not an action RPG like our past two games. In this game, it's about leading your band of exiles to freedom through a series of mystical competitions spread across this vast purgatory setting in which your characters have been cast down. So over the course of the game, you'll have to search the stars to discover which of these celestial landmarks is kind of calling to you, make your way to those locations, then confront a colorful series of adversaries there to determine who may kind of return in glory and regain their freedom, and who may remain in exile until the end of their days. So those are kind of the stakes of the competition. And I think one of the interesting things about the game that we haven't talked about too much until now, in part because we've been building it out still and kind of wanted to make sure it was fully realized, was this aspect that the game, there's no point in the game where you lose progress. There's no kind of game over screen. We wanted to make a game that had all the kind of challenge and excitement and intensity of a fast-paced action game, but that didn't put up those roadblocks where you might be getting kind of really excited for where the story is going to go next, but then you hit a brick wall because you're just bashing your head against a boss fight. You can't move forward. So we wanted to make a game where the story advances no matter whether you fail or prevail, and that's kind of central to the themes of the story and everything. That's, in all of our past games, we've explored how our narrative components and our gameplay can really coexist in harmony and work with each other. And but one of the ideas we've been talking about for years is a game where you kind of literally can't fail, where the only real failure is to kind of stop playing and quit. I think we've fully realized it in Pyre here. But with having said all that, we don't want to talk too much more about the campaign. We want to leave that kind of very fresh for you to experience on your own come July 25th. So instead, we are going to focus today on showing you more of Versus Mode, which exists in addition to our biggest ever single-player campaign. So Versus Mode focuses on the kind of the central battle system of the game, something called the Rites, this ritual competition. So in Versus Mode, you'll be able to take on a friend or a computer opponent, play as more than 20 different characters from the campaign. And I think without blabbing about it more, we're just going to dive right in. But first, we're going to introduce our lovely contestants here. We have on the left Mr. Gavin Simon, who is one of the co-founders of Supergiant, a guy who makes all of our games work, an engineer by trade. And on the right, we have Michael Ailshire, who keeps the lights on here at Supergiant. So they will be throwing down in a series of rights here. You'll be able to, we'll take your questions and stuff like that. And with each new right, we're going to be showing new stuff. So definitely stick around because we've got plenty to get into. So let's just dive right in. Our first location is a place called the Cairn of Haub. This is kind of on the precipice of a pretty dark place in this mystical purgatory called the Downside. So that's we've actually never shown this location before. It's kind of pretty pretty foreboding looking, I suppose. So on the left side, we have a triumvirate called the Nightwings in blue, and on the right, we have a triumvirate called the Accusers in orange. And Amir is going to tell you a little bit about what is even going on here, what the object of this ritual is.
So, Pyre's battle system is party-based, just like the whole game is. So you field a team of 3, and you control them all in real time. Basically, you only control one character at a time, one exile at a time, because only one of them is permitted to move at a time. And you manage them and move them around the competition in real time. So the object of the rite is to go and grasp that celestial orb you see there in the middle there and use it to douse the opposing pyre. And we're going to do that by grabbing it and running it all the way into the opposing pyre, and boom. Once a character does that, they deal some damage to the pyre and slowly whittle it down.
And then they remain banished. Basically, that character, Ruki, once he doused the pyre, he's now banished temporarily, basically for this next round, until one side or the other can douse the pyre yet again, and then Ruki will be back. We'll be able to kind of go and take another stab at it.
Participate again. Yeah, we have, in Pyre, there's these auras that surround your character. They serve both a defensive and offensive purpose, and we can see here, when you touch the opposing aura, you're banished for a time, and you can see those countdown timers in the bottom that show you how long you might be out for. So there's a lot of sort of back and forth of trying to make sure that you're able to clear the field of opposing exiles so you can try and jam the orb into the Pyre.
Yeah, and as one of the kind of big twists on it is that once you grab the orb, it absorbs all of your aura, so it leaves your current exile very vulnerable to being banished. So there's you have to kind of carefully make your way down the other side of the down the other side of the arena and kind of find the right moment. And you have a variety of moves at your disposal to kind of outmaneuver and outsmart your opponent. You'll see that each character has like essentially a stamina bar beneath them, so that governs their ability to sprint and use kind of very fast maneuvers, and also to leap when they jump up, or their kind of racial equivalent of jumping, which you'll see in a bit. They can evade the adversary's aura. So there's a lot of kind of mind games of trying to bait out the other player into running at you, and then you jump right over them, and things of that nature. Kind of a balance between really kind of timing-based, tight, close quarters battling with the opponent, but also this almost like a strategic level mind game of trying to outwit your opponent's kind of entire group.
Yeah, if you played our previous games before, you know that we love combining sort of real-time pleasures along with stuff that's strategic or tactical in nature. As we've done in Bastion and Transistor before it or after it. In this particular case, you're of course managing multiple characters at the same time. It was part of the thing that was really appealing to us. We have a bigger game with a larger cast of characters that you can get closer to, but you're also coordinating them both outside these rites and inside these rites, which is a big part of both the campaign and in versus mode.
Yeah, that's right. So it creates a lot of these really interesting considerations. We hope in very early on, you end up having to decide which of your characters to even select to participate in these rites, because only 3 exiles can participate. It has to be exactly 3 exiles who participate. So on the one hand, you have these gameplay considerations of which characters just happen to work best together, but then you may have certain emotional considerations, characters who get along better with each other, want to participate with each other, characters who might not see eye to eye quite as much, and whether to field them together. So we hope that over the course of the game, that'll lend itself to just a lot of kind of really rich decision making around this like central battle system in the game.
And because Pyre is a party-based RPG, managing your party is more than just figuring out who's going to actually be fielded and go and take part in the ritual. There's also the ability to equip them, to level them out, to outfit them in different ways. Our games have always sort of had that RPG element that allows you to kind of configure the game and configure the characters to your play style. And so it's really important for us in this game that you're able to do that as well. both in the campaign and in the versus mode. It looks like we have a winner.
Oh wow! Who was that? That was Gavin crushing Michael's hopes and dreams already. So that was So the Nightwings happened to prevail there. Mm-hmm. We didn't get a chance to talk about how all the characters in that right were different, even though there were characters of the same race on each side. Though we can dive into that a little bit more here in the next right. So we are. By the way, for those of you just joining us, thank you very much. We're live from Supergiant HQ here in San Francisco. I'm Greg. This is Amir.
Hello.
We're talking about Pyre, and we're showing you the versus mode live right now. This is, in fact, we've never shown this before. This is the versus mode itself. These are many of the options available to you. We're not going to talk about all of them right here and now, but you can kind of take a gander and absorb some of it. So we're switching to a different environment called the Spring of Jomur. We're sticking to the Nightwings and the Accusers.
What about our music? Should we switch up our
music?
Yeah,
we could switch our music. Yeah, you'll be able to choose from different. Yeah, we could go with that one.
Yeah, sounds good.
And I guess we're gonna turn. We will toggle off the sermon intro this time around.
Yep.
There are a variety of ways to customize the versus mode experience. By default, the characters all have their own set of abilities that kind of governs how they're unique. But you could also customize them here with different equipment and choose the abilities for them if you so desire. But let's just go right in to the next right.
All right. We are at this is Spring of Jomur,
yeah,
right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And this one, this is kind of a larger and more kind of a water-soaked environment. Now let's pause a moment here too, because this is a lot to take in. This is something we've never shown before as well. This is essentially the preparation phase before just about every rite. This is the character select screen. Here you have access to a wide variety of information. We've never one of the things we've sort of dreamed about having in our like RPG making aspirations here at Supergiant is just a character sheet for our characters. Yeah. Just like what are their attributes, what's their name, what's their biography. So we have all that stuff here for 20 plus different characters. We only have some of them available for you here. We don't want to give too much away. There's one for those of you astute viewers that we've never revealed before that we will be revealing now for the first time. This is Pamitha Thane. She is from a race known as the Harps, which are these kind of winged creatures who have been enemies of the Commonwealth, from which most of the other exiles have been cast out. So she joins the group, you'll find out why she joins the group, but normally she would not be interacting with a lot of these other characters. But we are going to pick her. Versus mode is kind of a dream match scenario where you can pick whichever characters you want, even though they might normally hate each other's guts. So Michael here is going to pick Mr. Ignarius, one of the larger characters in the game.
Yeah, I mean, part of the joy of this and this kind of multiplayer mode, this head-to-head local multiplayer mode, is we really looked at games that we love that had big, awesome stories that you didn't necessarily want to play the versus mode necessarily until you've played through the campaign, and we kind of took that approach with this as well. Introduce you to all these characters and then have the ability to extend your play experience by jumping into versus mode afterwards.
Yeah, and of course you could jump into versus mode at any time. That was something that was really important to us also, where like we thought a lot about, should we unlock the characters over time and stuff, and we settled on something really simple, which is just if you try to access versus mode early on in the game, it just gives you like a little notice saying, hey, you might reveal characters that you haven't met yet in the campaign, but you could just skip that if that's not something you're concerned with. But everything is unlocked from the beginning. It's not, you don't have to go through and kind of painstakingly unlock access to what we think is just a really cool mode that we've been having a ton of fun playing. So let's talk a little bit more about Pamitha here. She's very different than the other characters. The first three characters it kind of fit the small, medium, large. They're the kind of introductory characters to get into the game relatively simply. But Pamitha's abilities are a lot different. She can't jump like the other characters, but she can fly. Yeah. And she could fly for quite a while before having to come back down to Earth. And she could, fly right over the heads of her adversaries and just sail right in to the Pyre with the orb there, and so it makes her seem very, very powerful, and in fact she is. But your opponents do have a way to counteract that, which is that they can jump themselves and kind of knock her back down to earth. Jumping is the way to counter other kind of characters jumping in this game, and you'll find those kind of mid-air collisions happen naturally here. You'll see that Pamitha's aura is also kind of a different nature. It's like just true to her different nature as a different kind of creature. Really, it's got a different shape, sort of suggesting her differences. Yeah. And she could dash around really quickly. She's kind of a more maneuverable, more kind of technical characters than some of the others.
Yeah, the other characters that we're showing here too, we've got 2 Curs now who are playing on the side of the accusers. Those are much faster characters with a kind of slidier, a little bit harder to control because they don't have much self-control really as exiles in this universe. But what's kind of fun about customizing your team in versus mode is you're able to kind of stack them however you want and put together the team that makes that kind of fits your playstyle and sensibilities. You'll have that in the campaign as well, and that'll be one of those considerations in addition to the characters and their desire to participate in the rites in order to get out. There's also, your question of how you want to play and how you want to put together your band of exiles that fits the way you like to approach the competition.
Yeah, and once we get I guess we haven't shown Pamitha's aura cast yet. Oh, yeah. She has the other characters we've seen, they just kind of can fire their aura like a projectile attack, whereas Pamitha just essentially has this tackle, like an aura tackle that, in fact, while she's doing it, she's immune to adversaries' auras, so she could just kind of bulldoze right through her opponents with that. Again, like changing her play style quite a bit in comparison to the others. So we'll see. I think Gavin and Michael are gonna
take the gloves off.
Yeah, take the gloves off a little bit here. So yeah. You'll see them in action.
Yeah.
One of the other details is that different exiles deal essentially different amounts of damage to the adversary's Pyre. So it's kind of often depends on how kind of big and essentially how glorious they are. We have one of the attributes is called Glory that directly determines how much damage an exile deals to their Pyre. But typically the kind of faster an exile is, if it's easier for them to douse the adversary's Pyre, typically they won't do quite as much damage to it in one blow. Whereas with these big demons, if they could get in there, they really take a big chunk out of it. We've shown that you see it's kind of a demon on demon violence there. On the left we have Jodariel, and on the right we have Ignarius. What makes them, they have different attributes, even though they're since they share a race, they play similarly. They have access to a different, a similar set of moves, but they have different masteries and different attributes and things of that nature to kind of change aspects of their play style. So in the other example here with Ruki and Barker, who's the other Cur, Ruki is able to double jump in the air, so he's very maneuverable while basically while jumping around, whereas Barker has a super fast sprint. I believe he's the single fastest character in the game, kind of once he gets going. Yeah. So those are some of the ways where even when we have characters who share the same race, they still play quite a bit differently. And that's, in the campaign you'll be able to customize that even more because they have access to more abilities than you'll actually be able to, sort of have equipped on them at any given time.
Why don't we talk a little bit about the Spring of Jomera and just sort of the world of Pyre, where they've been cast down in the downside, and how that might sort of differ from our previous worlds.
There's, one of in Bastion, we made this kind of fantasy frontier world, and we love creating that world. But then we went to like a science fiction world in Transistor, but we were really excited to go back to a fantasy setting with Pyre, but to sort of approach it from more from the high fantasy direction of like a really old feeling world with a variety of characters of all shapes and sizes in a way that kind of wouldn't have made sense. And the world of Bastion is more a bit more modern feeling. There's like muskets and rifles and things of that nature, whereas in Pyre it's a very kind of old feeling world with these races with a lot of history, and the setting, the downside, this purgatory setting with its own history, and you'll just even as a setting, it kind of gave us license to just have a lot of different types of places and climates and atmospheres kind of within it. And this locale is kind of pretty early on. It's still when the downside, hasn't quite shown its nastiest side, so it's a little bit more pristine here. But the previous location that we shown was a little bit more sinister as you're starting to get into some of the neither reaches of the setting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how's it? They're both pretty close here. You see that they're you could see the progress of the right by the numbers kind of in the respective corners. So it's down to just 10 Pyre health on the Nightwing side. So if Michael there can douse the Pyre once more, he shall prevail. But it's really. But Gavin fiendishly stole it from him, cruelly stole it from him.
Pamitha and using her to douse the Pyre there.
Yeah, thanks to the efforts of Pamitha there. Pamitha and Joe Dariel there to Pamitha's left, to Pamitha's right, rather. They might normally not interact quite the way that they did there, but they were able to work together and succeed, much to Michael's chagrin.
So I think we're going to jump into another right here, and we're also going to start taking questions from people who have any questions. Some of them have come up. Why don't you guys configure the next one? And I think for the next one, these guys are just going to pick whatever they want. And put together the triumvirate that might finally allow Michael and the accusers to prevail and of over Gavin.
And we're only we're not gonna reveal too much here of versus mode. There's many more environments. There's obviously many more characters. So this is just a taste. We want you to be able to experience most of this for the first time when the game is finally available on July 25th. That was our big news today. That game is almost done. We can finally show more of it. We can finally talk more about it. Talk about the campaign, show you versus mode, show you more of these characters and all that stuff. Yeah, so by all means, fire away with some questions, and we will respond.
Yeah, I got one or two here. So someone was asking what the relentless vigor text that keeps coming up is on Jody, and we can talk a little bit about her mastery. Yeah,
relentless vigor. That is the name of one of Jodariel's masteries. So that's one of the we talked about the difference between her and how Ignarius plays. So Jodariel has this powerful kind of lunging ability. Normally she's very slow, but she can lunge forward and take out her adversaries that way. Normally that drains all of her stamina, but with one of her masteries called Relentless Vigor, if she banishes an adversary, she regains all of her stamina instantly, so she could press the attack that way and basically keep bulldozing through her foes. So that's an ability that she has by default in versus mode, and Ignarius does not have, so it significantly changes the way she plays compared with Ignarius. So you'll see that kind of floating text pop up that's showing you that one of your abilities has taken effect that has some kind of situational impact there.
Yeah, so there's a couple other questions coming in. One of them is, does it have online multiplayer? I think that's been asked a couple times.
Yes, Pyre is a local two-player head-to-head game. It does not have online play. Online play is something we investigated and tested quite closely, but in the end it was something that we felt that in order to kind of meet the high standard of today when it comes to online play, it has to be the entire focus of the game. But the focus of Pyre's development is absolutely the single-player campaign. It's our biggest campaign ever. It's the kind of experience that we think you will have come to expect from us at Supergiant. We did not kind of set out to make whatever, just like a multiplayer-focused game, and yet we had such a great time basically testing this game head-to-head and playing what became versus mode that we're we have to do something with this. So the right decision for us was to focus on local play and put this out there, and you could play it against the computer or against another player. So even if you don't have someone nearby who's gonna play with you, there's just a ton of lasting value just playing against the computer. A lot of us before Supergiant, several of us worked on actually real-time strategy games of all things on the Command and Conquer series, and it was really fun to play RTS games just in skirmish mode, just kind of throwing down against the computer, configuring, playing as different factions and so on. So basically Pyre has the equivalent of that to provide a lot of lasting value on top of the campaign.
Yeah, there's also just sort of the fun of putting together a team and that you could never put together in the campaign, which can only really happen in versus mode, which is where you can actually use the adversaries that normally they just want to beat you in the campaign, and here you can kind of pair them up.
Yeah, it's
create your fantasy scenarios.
That's right. It's the kind of dream match scenario where characters that aren't playable in the campaign that was another thing where we debated for a long time kind of what the versus mode cast of characters were going to be, because there were a lot of different like schools of thought on what made the most sense. But the thing that emerged as just kind of the most exciting was like, hey, let's just let you play as these characters that you normally can't play as. It's almost the feel of like, oh wow, I could play as this like boss character or something like that, that kind of feel to it, and I think it's even very much in theme with the campaign, just kind of getting in everybody's heads and being able to see the world from their point of view and try to prevail in the rights as all these different characters. There's one actually, like along those lines, a really fun way to play the game is you know, in addition to picking your triumvirate and configuring it, you could also just kind of go all random and just pick random characters and have at it. And we have a lot of fun just playing that way and seeing who like which weird combination of characters we'll end up getting. There's no combination of characters that like isn't, they're all individually viable. It's just the strategies are really different depending on who you end up with. So it just changes quite a bit depending on who you end up with, even if the combination of characters may not be exactly optimal.
Yeah. So the questions are piling up.
Cool.
So I'm gonna try and slay some of these a little bit, so we can get some of them cleared. So one of them is, will the OST be available day one? Yes. Pyre has a soundtrack that's over 90 minutes. It's done by our composer Darren Korb, who was the composer and audio director for Bastion and Transistor, and it will be available day one. And you can actually pre-order it now on Steam if you are so inclined.
Yeah, we're really well, we could go off about the soundtrack, but the audio has always been really important to our games. Pyre is definitely no exception in that regard. I'm really, really excited for some of the stuff we're doing with the music and audio. Yeah, I can't wait for people to experience that aspect.
And speaking of audio, there's some questions about voice actors.
Yes.
First question, most important one to get out of the way, is Logan Cunningham in this game?
Yeah, is he ever? The answer to that. Yeah, Logan. I think we kept Logan plenty busy on this one. We're blabbing over it right now, but Logan is essentially the character who is emceeing these rights as you play. It's a fully kind of dynamic announcer character who's also central to the story. You'll hear him, and he has all new kind of totally different content in versus mode in addition to the campaign. So you'll be hearing plenty of this character. But that's just one of Logan's characters. Folks are often really surprised to hear that this is in fact Logan, because he sounds so different from the understated character from Transistor or from Rux from Bastion. But yeah, we love working with Logan, and this game is just another expression of how much range he has as an actor.
Yeah, and because we're Supergiant and like to keep the team together, we have a larger voice acting cast. It looks like, oh my God, Michael won.
Yeah, good job.
Accusers prevail.
With this heavy-hitting team there.
Well done, Michael. I'm happy to see that. So yeah, it's a larger cast, and that includes the voice actors, and you'll get to see it if you make it to the credits. But certainly some familiar voices there as well from our previous titles. If you enjoyed the characters in Transistor.
Yeah, I think we're gonna let's keep going, because we've got some more questions piling up. So you guys can keep throwing down. We could show.
You want to do no customize, all random?
Or no, because that's gonna reveal.
Okay, well,
never mind. but they could just keep picking different folks and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go hit the next thing.
Yeah, cool. And this is skipping the sermon. Yeah, the intro. So this is kind of the faster. You could just jump into versus mode matches really, really quickly in this fashion. We wanted to make it just really, really like quick and easy. Just the way I like playing games like this is just you got your buddy or you're playing against a computer. You just want to loop through really quickly and not be stuck on like long loading screens or whatever. So we just try to make it really simple to keep playing kind of as much as you want. You can dive in and out of versus mode basically at any time in the campaign. It's not like some totally. It is a separate mode, but it's all very kind of readily available at whatever point you want to access it during your campaign play.
Yeah, there's a question here about the throwing the orb versus running it in, which is something we can show and talk about a little bit more once we get into the game. We can talk a little bit more about the mechanics. But you've seen when an exile goes and takes the orb and physically runs it into the pyre, what ends up happening is they're banished for the subsequent round. If you take the orb and you toss it in, which we will not show. Yeah,
it's okay.
It's fine because this is all live and happening right now. If you take the orb and you toss it, you fling it into the pyre. So Barker just did that. Now Barker won't be out the subsequent round. So
which is a pretty pretty big advantage. You're not down a character when you do that. But flinging in the orb, it takes time to prepare, and you'll see a number kind of begins to tick up as you do that, and that's essentially determining the strength of the attack.
Yeah.
When you plunge into the pyre, it's always at full strength, but when you fling the orb, it has to charge up. So sometimes you could kind of chip away at the pyre that way, kind of for the tactical benefit of not losing your character, and it could lend itself to some really interesting situations late during a rite when their pyre might just be down to kind of 5 health or something like that, and all it takes is just a little bit of a fling of the orb just to kind of close out close out the rite. So we get into a lot of interesting situations with that sort of thing.
Yep, yeah, there's another fling.
Kamatha flinging it in.
So someone is asking me, which is an inside joke, what is the most important thing to do in Diablo 2, which is a reference, of course, to a YouTube video that I may or may not be involved in. And the answer to that is, of course, to bind those keys, which is relevant to Pyre because Pyre has fully customizable, remappable controls on the PC. So I brought it back. Yeah, but we've always, for PC players out there who want the ability to customize their game, customize their controls, whether on a gamepad or keyboard, we know that's super important because we're PC game players as well, and we're going to make sure all that stuff is there for you when you pick up Pyre if you choose to play it there.
Yeah, even just in general, just the overall accessibility of the game in every sense of that term is something that we value a great deal. So whether it's something like configuring your controls or just configuring the difficulty of the game to what is a setting that feels right to you, or as we talked about earlier, the fact that you literally cannot game over in this game. The story advances whether you succeed or fail, so you're gonna get through to the end if you just keep playing. Even though there's plenty of challenge along the way, that was something that was really important to us because we want players to be able to experience the story, experience their version of the story more importantly, and just kind of have their own journey, to freedom as these characters. So
it also was when we started working with the concept, the idea that failure is a part of the whole experience and not a thing that completely resets and reboots the experience. It made us think about the whole game design, the structure of the game. The characters, the kinds of situations you get in, everything changed.
No, that's absolutely right. That was where that's where it came from for us, because we're just even thematically, it's this story about these characters. They've started off on a bad foot. They've already been exiled, and they're having to kind of struggle through this situation and kind of sometimes make up for things that they wish hadn't happened to them in the past. So it just made sense to have a game that was tolerant of these characters failing from time to time. And we just thinking about it honestly, in real life, we often learn, there's the saying, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. It's these characters, as long as they can kind of live to fight another day, they're gaining enlightenment. They're getting more experienced and stronger, and kind of learning to deal with the situation that they're in. And that's kind of why we were so interested in this type of premise for what even the kind of battle system is. If it was going to be this highly lethal, kind of brutal game of lopping people's heads off or something like that, the problem with dying is you don't learn from that. You don't come back. You don't come back from that. And the way games handle that is they take you out of it, right? You die, but you as a player have learned something, and you hit your game over screen. You kind of learn what killed you in that situation. You restart and you move forward. But we were really interested in a narrative that where the characters can experience that themselves and kind of pick themselves up after a defeat and keep going.
And as a question tied to that is, does the game have multiple endings?
Yeah. Does it? I think similar to the Logan question. Does it ever?
Yeah.
It definitely. We don't want to kind of give too much away about the ending, but for sure, it made sense to us in this game that the ending of the game is going to kind of reflect the path you took to get there.
Yeah.
So it only made sense for the ending to be to vary based on how you played the game. So you can look forward to that. Again, we don't want to give too much away, but it's always the endings of our games have been really, really important to us in each of the games we've made. We want players to feel like it was worth their time and effort we just really value players' investment of just their time in playing our game. We want to make sure that they feel like they kind of earned a suitable kind of recognition of what they've done by the time they get to the end. So we've expressed that differently, obviously, in both Bastion and Transistor, and you'll experience something different in Pyre likewise, but hopefully it's something that you feel is really fitting to this game. Oh, there's Ignarius showing off as he seals the deal there.
Yep.
That's a good-looking group there.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to pick it all. We're only showing the Nightwings and the Accusers. It's a cosmetic choice in versus mode, but there's many other triumvirates to choose from, and you'll get to know all of them during the course of the game.
Yeah. So
we're gonna do.
Let's
time
just
for one more.
Squeeze out one more because we got questions and we got some other ones that are worth talking about. So I don't know if you guys want to head back to the cairn because we started there and we can sort of as Greg was implying it's at the point where you're in your journey through the downside where it starts to take a turn for the darker in terms of stuff. Yeah, we'll go.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll do sermon intros. Check out the.
Yeah, let's actually have a listen. This is like
we can turn it up maybe for people who want to hear.
Welcome, exiles.
And this is Logan Cunningham.
You heed the summons to the cairn of Haub. Here you shall be tested by your adversary. The stars themselves shall be your witnesses. Nightwings, stand ready. Accusers, stand prepared.
And that's a highly there's a lot of variety there. It's unique to the triumvirates in the right. It's unique to the location that you're in, and so on and so forth. Again, versus mode is one of those things. It's designed to be played a lot, so we wanted to make sure that the voiceover it kind of did its job to hold up its end of the bargain, kind of provided a lot of kind of cool stuff for you to hear. Yeah, we haven't shown, so we have those attributes at the top. We can briefly.
Yeah, some people were asking about hope and some of these other things. They're wondering how they affect exiles.
Yep, there are these four basic attributes. Glory is essentially represents how much damage you do. Presence determines the size of your aura. And quickness determines, as is suggested, how quickly you move, your movement speed, and hope is how quickly you return from banishment. Those are kind of the basic ideas there. They're meant to be expressive about the character's different personalities and so on. We also have their master. We haven't shown talismans on the right. There's this kind of empty spot for the character's talisman pocket. By default, you don't mess with those in versus mode, but you can equip them if you so choose. So talismans essentially are like equipment. They give characters access to different abilities, or they can shore up some of their weaknesses. They're just another sort of channel to configure your characters however you so choose. And talismans over the course of the campaign are also upgradable in themselves. So not only can you invest in your characters, but you can invest in your talismans and kind of swap them back and forth between your favorite characters, that sort of thing, just to keep the we wanted to have all those kind of juicy RPG systems interacting with each other in a cool way.
Yeah. So some other questions. This one's going to be tough, which is of the characters we're looking at here, who is your favorite?
Oh, Lord.
So I'm a Rookie man, but Rookie's not. Yeah, Rookie's up there. He's currently on the Accusers, which is unfortunate because Michael's lost streak is not good. But I love Rookie's double jump, which Michael just pulled off there for a score. Yep. I mean, for a dousing. Well done, Michael. But yeah, so he's one of my favorites. He's been fun since he was like a not modeled, barely
Yeah,
textured thing sliding across the screen. So I have a special place in my heart for Rookie.
Yeah, Rookie was like one of the first characters where I think on every kind of along every channel as we were figuring out what the tone of the world was going to be, how it was going to play. He was one of the characters that just kind of came together early on, and when we saw him, and we're like, okay, yeah, that's we like where this is. We don't know where the rest of this is going to lead us, but we like where this is going.
For those of you who are just tuning in for some reason and hearing us talk about mustachioed dogs taking part in an ancient competition, we are showing Pyre. We're Supergiant Games, creators of Bastion Transistor, and we have the news today, which is that Pyre will be available on July 25th, and you can pre-order it today. Some people are still asking questions about platforms, so the platforms that Pyre will be available on at launch are PlayStation 4 and Steam, and on Steam it will be on Windows and Linux.
Yeah, that's right. That's our big news today. Yeah, just that the game is almost done. We've been we keep pretty quiet during development. We poke our heads out, when it comes to certain events like PAX. Like when we announce our game, we've only announced 3 games in total. We've been around since 2009. This is our 3rd game that's almost done.
Yep.
So these games take us a while. We our team of 12 people, we just throw everything at each game that we work on, kind of reinvest everything. It's thanks to the success of our previous games that we were able to just kind of keep going and make stuff, in the fashion that we do, using the process that we do. You will soon see what that means in the case of Pyre, which is this pretty big departure for us, both just structurally, gameplay wise, and yet it has, I think it has for folks who've enjoyed our games in the past, it has the kind of the presentation aspects, the focus on narrative, the kind of action-packed gameplay. All those things are there, just in a pretty different fashion.
Yeah, I mean, so the art you're seeing here, is art directed by Gen Z, who also makes almost all the 2D elements. Josh, who did the visual effects on Transistor and the menus and the UI and all that kind of stuff. He's doing the beautiful Pyre flames and auras and everything else you see on the screen. And finally, Camilo, who's our animator, who brought Red to life and made all those functions feel unique and interesting with the way she moved and animates all the characters that you see on the screen here. And so it's cool to see them kind of, personally, because we've been together for so long, see them grow as artists. And exceed work that we were really, really proud of 3 years ago and put it into this game.
Yeah, it's. I think that was just, one of the things we kept coming back to is like, we so have enjoyed just kind of the world building aspects of our games, just creating the characters, the setting, and everything. So one of the earliest ideas on this game is just like, what would it take? What would it look like to make a game that just had more characters in it? What would the context be for a game with more characters, and what would a setting be, and so on? And that was something that first and foremost attracted us to the idea of this game. So it's pretty cool to be here now with we definitely have a few more weeks of hard work ahead of us, but definitely the light is there at the end of the tunnel, and just to see that it's taken shape and we have this big cast now of 20 plus different characters, each with their own stories and motivations and relationships with all the other characters and all that kind of stuff. And plus they all play differently, all that stuff that I think we've always pushed for with all of our previous games and in different fashions. That's kind of pushed even farther with this game.
Yeah. For those of you asking about other platforms, we super appreciate that our games have had an audience in all the places they've released, whether it's on iPad or tablets or mobile or other consoles and all that kind of stuff. Pyre is going to be launching on PlayStation 4 and Steam, and beyond that, we have no plans, but certainly we haven't ruled anything out. For us, it's really important because we're a really, really small team. In fact, half our engineering team right now is just playing Pyre in here. So it's really important for us to stay focused so we can deliver the highest quality experience on the platforms that we initially choose.
Yeah, one of the being small as a team of 12 people, it has both its strengths and its weaknesses, right? Like the strengths are that we can make the kind of games that we do. We could just have a situation where everyone working on the game has a lot of investment, like a lot of responsibility to how the game ends up, and really kind of put their own mark on it. But it does mean we have to be really careful about prioritizing what we do, not stretch ourselves too thin, and just kind of make sure we do at least one thing, typically no more than one thing at a time so much as possible. And so it definitely means prioritizing, and we've had a great experience with Transistor launching our game on both PlayStation 4 and Steam at the same time. That was something we felt that we could handle, having done it once before, so it's definitely what made the most sense for Pyre. And then beyond that, we don't plan too far ahead, because what matters is what folks think of this game, and we'll just kind of see what happens. We're gonna make the best game we can and kind of take it from there. See what everyone has to say. That's been our strategy in the past with both Bastion and Transistor. We put everything we had just into making a good game in the first place, and then hopefully, from there, people will be interested in seeing it come to more places. We could figure that out as we go along.
Yeah, speaking another sort of related but not quite the same question is about localization. We know we have players all over the world, and we've really appreciated that. And so some people are asking, at launch, will you have translations like you did on your previous titles?
Yeah, so that is a good question. And so what happened during the course of development is it became clear that the stuff we were doing with the narrative, the kind of the complexity of what we were doing with the words in this game and how they were being put together, essentially, and the volume of content made it so that the way that we've been able to localize our games in the past was just not possible, at least not without like severe compromises to the quality. So we made the decision to not localize the game. It will only be in English at launch. For those reasons, it was just the only way we could have, like, our options would have been, like severely compromised quality. We've never localized our voiceover. That was something that for many reasons in the past we just haven't been able to do because of the way it's scripted, how closely the timing matters, and how that just doesn't necessarily carry over if you translate it. And so the Pyre will be available in English only. Though beyond the initial launch, we'll see how it goes, and we'll continue to explore those options. We didn't feel that it was worth kind of indefinitely delaying the game to chase after. We didn't want to reduce the scope of the ambition of what the narrative was doing, and we didn't want to indefinitely delay the game for something that we didn't even know would even be possible. So that's kind of where we ended up with that.
Yep. People want to know if Ashley has that. Whoa, here we go.
Oh,
we got the rare full white.
Yeah.
This is Pyre at its finest.
Take a
breather.
moment to consider all of your misdeeds. Yeah, Ashley Barrett's involvement. We've said before that everyone who worked on Bastion, who then worked on Transistor, we consider Ashley an integral part of that group that gave our previous games their distinct identity. So you can look forward to her involvement in this game as well. In fact, if you watch our original launch trailer, or not our launch, our reveal trailer with a song called "In the Flame," the first piece of music that we released for the game, she is there even in that track faintly. So that sort of subtly gave away her involvement, but you can look forward to more from her and lots more from Darren Korb, our composer and audio director. Yeah, we mentioned before, the soundtrack is going to be available there at launch. It's our biggest soundtrack ever by a pretty sizable margin, in keeping with the fact that the campaign itself is our biggest campaign ever. Yeah,
some people are asking about additional characters, or are there more playable races? There are more playable races. People want to know specifics about some characters, and we're just we're hoping to keep most of that stuff a surprise for you, so that when you play the campaign, you can experience it firsthand yourself. So aspects and qualities of all the other characters in the game, we're hoping you will experience firsthand when you get a chance to try out the campaign. Yeah, we've revealed one new character today, and kind of her race as well, and how that's Pamitha, who's this winged character. We don't have her in this particular right, but Pamitha, in addition to kind of being very
she's different in every respect from all these other characters, and she's kind of expressive of how varied the kind of gameplay of the different races is. And there's, as you could see, if you saw the kind of character select screen previously, there's 20 plus characters, and there's quite a bit of different races and things to which they belong, and that's all just a big part of the setting and the story and everything.
Yeah, there's a question here. It says, "I trust Greg's kids, who seem to be pretty cool from his Twitter. Have his kids play the game, and do they like it? This is important to me."
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I have 2 kids, both grown old over the course of this game's development. One is 6, one is 11, and they actually do. It's a really, they were too young. Like during Transistor's development, they weren't super aware of it, but now they're both at an age where they can enjoy this game. That the 6-year-old can't handle all the like the story and stuff is a little much for him maybe, but he loves the versus mode, and he's pretty good at it. He's super proud of having kicked my butt at it one time. I let it. If he watches this 20 years down the line, I let you win. Yeah, and my daughter, she provided a really good sign to me that aspects of the narrative were working as hoped. It got her into some situations where she was asking all the kind of questions that we hope players will ask. Some of the stuff we were alluding to before of there's a variety of gameplay and kind of narrative emotional considerations that will sometimes put you in to some extent a dilemma, but you'll have to decide kind of how you feel about certain situations. We don't, as you've played if you played our previous games, we don't necessarily like to make things super cut and dried for you. We don't see the world as just straight up good versus evil or whatever. Things are usually a little more complicated than that, and we like for our games to kind of express that and let you explore different perspectives.
So I think that's probably the last right we're going to show. We're going to answer one more question before we wrap up, which is just sort of how does the gameplay you've seen here today in versus mode fit into the campaign? And that's something we sort of set the stage for at the beginning, but if maybe you tune in later or just would like to hear it in more detail, maybe we can talk to them about how the rights they're a part of fit into the actual narrative and maybe paint a picture of what the experience of the campaign is like.
Yeah, this is essentially if you think of this game as an RPG, which we considered a party-based RPG, what you're seeing here is essentially the battle system. When you have to kind of work your way across this mystical purgatory setting to kind of get into these battles against other adversaries whose own freedom is at stake. So each time you prevail or you fail at one of these rights, you step closer to being able to kind of go free again or not. And that's kind of the main, without giving too much away, that's kind of the framework of what the campaign is all about. So you get into these different situations, you meet new characters, you meet new adversaries, your characters gain an enlightenment, gain access to new abilities, you kind of mix and match them in different ways, the story takes its various twists and turns, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how the campaign is structured. And in versus mode, you could just kind of pick any of the different characters, including adversaries who you can't play as in the campaign, and throw down with your friends or against the computer and have at it. So it's our biggest campaign ever, and it's got the versus mode on top of that. So we think it's got a ton of bang for the buck for particularly asking $20, same price as Transistor before it. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what to expect from the campaign, from the game in general. And you're welcome to keep firing away with questions on Twitter. We're on Twitter at Supergiant Games, we're gonna. I think from here on out, we're gonna be hunkering down to finish strong. We've got a few weeks of development left, but Pyre is coming very soon on July 25th. PlayStation 4 and Steam, like we said before, you can pre-order it now if you like what you see and hear. Yeah. We would love to get your feedback in general on the stream and everything. We thought about this is a game that we think lends itself a little bit more to showing this kind of environment. We're playing it all the time. So if you'd like to see more from us like this, that would be great to hear and stuff like that. And Amir, any a big shout out
to everybody.
Yeah, to Gavin and Michael for bloodying each other's noses for the last hour or so. Yeah. And thank you to JP there behind the desk for setting all this up for us. And Amir, any other last thoughts?
Yeah, I guess I just want to say thank you to everyone who's supported us. We've been around since 2009. It's amazing that we're able to make games together still, as the team of 7 who's still here, who made Bastion, the team of 12, which is the same team we're bringing into Pyre. We're only able to do that because you guys support us in all kinds of ways. We've shown you some of Pyre today. You see that Pyre is like a very different game from the ones we've made, but the highest compliment that we have received about the game when we've gone to shows and got it into the hands of other people is that it feels like us. So it's awesome to be working on a game alongside these guys and being able to do it for you. If you came by at PAX, if you've talked to us on Twitter, if you interact with us in any way and you said you can't wait for the game, the good news is you don't have to wait much longer. The game will be out soon, and we're gonna put everything into this last stretch to make sure it's worthy of your support. So thank you very much for tuning into our live stream, and we'll hopefully see you again. The final news, of course, is Pyre is available for pre-order now, and it'll be coming out on July 25th on Steam and PlayStation 4. You can get it now for 10% off. Pre-order the soundtrack if you like. Thanks a lot.